Perfect points come more often with practice, patience, and the right method, so please don't give up. Hi everyone, it's Mary from Joyful and Mary Quilting, and welcome to this month's session of Mary's Threads Ask a Quilter. In today's session, we have 4 letters from quilters, and basically we're talking about color choices, chasing perfection, that's always an issue, and then sticking to what feels right for you. So, first of all, what is Mary's Threads? Ask a Quilter. I'll tell you what, this is a place where we celebrate the way you quilt and we say goodbye to the guilt and the pressure that too often sneaks into our sewing rooms. Each one of us, I want you to know, brings a different style, different preferences, different experience levels, and our own beautiful quilting personalities to the table. So what's our motto? Here it is. We love how we quilt, we're done with guilt, and we kindly don't care what others think we should do. So just so you know, we're keeping the letters anonymous for privacy, but just like the old Dear Abby column, I'll give each quilter a fun pseudonym that fits their story. So let's get started. Letter number 1. This letter is from Rainbow Rulebreaker. Rainbow Rulebreaker says, Dear Mary, I love bright, clashing colors. In fact, the louder, the better. But, there's always a but. At my local guild show, a judge commented that my color choices were too busy and that I should tone it down to be more competitive. I'm not entering to win ribbons, just to share my work. So I feel like this criticism was unnecessary. Should I try to follow their advice anyway? Here's my answer. Dear Rainbow Rulebreaker, remember that when you enter a quilt show, judges will evaluate your quilt through the lens of both quilting rules and their own personal preferences when it comes to fabric, color, and design. So by entering, you're essentially agreeing to receive feedback. Some may align with your style, and you know what? Some just may not. From personal experience, I know it is never easy to take criticism, but I really have found that sometimes a judge's comments can be really helpful, especially when it comes to workmanship or technique. Those are areas, you know what, we can almost always improve on. But the other feedback, like color choices or overall style, that's often personal preference. So please keep that in mind. If a judge's criteria doesn't match my style, I smile, thank them for their feedback, and I keep right on quilting the way I love. No need to change. At the end of the day, your quilts should reflect you, and if bold, clashing colors bring you joy, then that's exactly what belongs in your quilts. Letter number 2 is from Pin Perfectionist. Dear Mary, no matter how carefully I pin, my seams never match perfectly. I've had people at quilt shows lean in close and point it out. It's discouraging, and sometimes I feel like my quilts will never be good enough. I think a lot of us echo this same feeling. Dear Pin Perfectionist, you didn't mention how long you've been quilting, but you know what? It sounds to me like matching intersections has been a real frustration for you. From what you describe, it may not be your effort, but it might be your method of pinning that's holding you back. You know, we've all heard the phrase, practice makes perfect. And you know, while practice is essential in quilting, practicing the same method that isn't working, it's only going to get you the same results. So sometimes a change in approach makes all the difference. So for me, pinning is a huge part of creating a clean, polished look. And you know, in all of my courses, I talk about pinning all the time. I think it's really important. But have my intersections always been perfect? Definitely not. I still have blocks where I pin and pin and pin, and they just end up a little bit off. But that's quilting, and that's okay. The method that made the biggest difference for me was diagonal pinning. It's my go-to for accurate intersections, and I teach it step by step in my free workshop called How to Create the Perfect Quilt Block Every Time. So one of the 5 tips I share there is a detailed video and handout on diagonal pinning. I really think it will help you. Go to joyfulandmaryquilting.com, sign up for the free workshop. You can watch it anytime you like, and it's really helpful. 5 points, 5 accompanying handouts and videos, and it really does help to create those perfect quilt blocks. Remember, perfect points come more often with practice, patience, and the right method, so please don't give up. I'm going to take just a minute here to tell you about a great product I recently discovered. Now, some of you might remember when I shared the Bob and Brad hand massager in an earlier quilting tips video. I loved it. Well, Bob and Brad have another product they recommend that's perfect for us as quilters. It's called the 206DM Pro Neck and Shoulder Massager. You know how tough quilting can be on our body, leaning over our sewing machines, cutting our fabric at the table, or even just sitting too long with a project. And you know, my neck and my shoulders are always the first to feel it. That's where this comes in. It's designed by two physical therapists, Bob and Brad, and it targets exactly those tight muscles we quilters deal with. It's really simple to use. Choose your setting after you've slipped it on, and it immediately starts working into those stiff spots. The rollers dig in, and the gentle heat, if you choose to put that setting on it, adds soothing relief without being too hot. So let me show you how it works. First of all, you can see this is where the heat is, right here. Place it on your shoulders, just relax right here, and you can do two things. You can either hold on to it with your thumbs with these straps, with the weight of your arms, it keeps it in place, and it just massages you if you're just going to do it for a few minutes. If you want to leave it on for longer, then you've got these two straps. They just fasten just like a bra, real easy. And then you push your buttons either for heat, if you want heat. There's also a button for intensity. What you do to get it started is push the power button, hold it till it beeps, and then it starts doing its magic. It is really amazing. It charges with a USB-C connection. It really feels light and comfortable. It's not super heavy. And I really love that I can use it anywhere. I can use it in my sewing room. I can use it when I'm watching TV, or you really can use it on the go. It feels like a premium massage. So I'll put the link in the description below. And if you're interested, check it out. Letter number 3. This is from Scrap Saver. Dear Mary, my friends make fun of me for saving the tiniest scraps. I can't help it. I just love the challenge of making something from almost nothing. But they keep telling me I'm wasting my time and that I should just buy new fabric instead of piecing together tiny bits. So here's my reply. Dear Scrap Saver, I love your attitude. You know what? Scrap busting may not be for everyone, but there really is a huge quilting community that, like you, finds joy in using every last bit of fabric. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. I am always puzzled by the my way or no way quilters who feel the need to dictate how others should use their fabric. So, here's what I do. First of all, I set a size limit for the scraps I keep. I have a bin, and then when it gets full, I organize them by color, sometimes by size, sometimes by designer. And when it's time to clear things out and I haven't used them, I either pass scraps along to Project Linus or any charitable group that makes quilts, or I turn them into something new. It's not only satisfying, but it's really also incredibly creative and a wonderful way to honor the fabric you already love. So for those of you watching, be sure to subscribe to our newsletter at joyfulandmerryquilting.com. Every January, we share a fun scrap busting project. The quilt behind me is called Embracing Our Scraps. It's our pattern from 2024. And if you go to the joyfulandmerryquilting.com website, click on store, that pattern is available there if you're interested. As a scrap saver, I applaud you for standing your ground and creating in the way that brings you joy. You know what? After all, this is our motto. We love how we quilt, we're done with guilt, and we kindly don't care what others think we should do. Letter number 4. This is from Border Enthusiast. It says, Dear Mary, I love adding multiple borders to my quilts, sometimes 3 or 4, but I've been told it's too much and that it distracts from the center design. Should I stop? That's a really good question. Dear Border Enthusiast, as I've said, and I will continue to say, it's your quilt, which means you get to decide on the pattern, the colors, the design, and the borders. Now for me, it really depends on my quilt center or my theme as to the number of borders that I add, or maybe I don't add any borders, but I do pay attention to how the colors and the widths interact with the center. So here's a suggestion. Go online or to Pinterest, search for quilts with borders, and you will be overwhelmed with ideas as well as suggestions. You'll see what you like and what you don't like. You will easily see that the borders are either going to enhance or overwhelm the quilt top depending on the overall design. Keep in mind, however, only you get to decide if you've struck the balance you love. So in addition, some border designs like medallion quilts, those borders are actually what make up the entire quilt. So at that point, the borders really aren't even considered borders at all, but an essential part of the quilt's design. If you've ever participated in a round robin quilt where you start out with a center and then and you keep adding borders as it's passed along to different quilters. Those are a perfect example of this kind of creative approach where added sections or borders contributes to the overall composition. Now I know this is getting long, but one more tip. Every quilt is an opportunity to learn. So when you finish your quilt, take a picture of it. Later, you can look back and see which borders you loved and which you might have handled differently had you had another opportunity to make that quilt. Use that as a guide for future quilts. So if multiple borders bring you joy, keep adding them. The beauty of quilting is that it reflects your vision. By the way, the quilt behind me is Embracing Our Scraps. The link is in the description. It's also available in the Joyful and Merry Quilting store. So in closing, if you enjoyed today's session, please click like and subscribe to the Joyful and Merry Quilting YouTube channel so you don't miss the next one. And if you have a question, a story, or a comment that you'd like me to share, please send me an email. Send it to mary@joyfulandmerryquilting.com or leave a comment on this video. Your letter might be featured in a future session. If you have a question, I'm sure others have the same question. We love how we quilt, we're done with guilt, and we kindly don't care what others think we should do. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm always trying to be joyful, but I will always be merry. See you next time.